I'm using my telekinesis to kill the girl. I'm using my telekinesis to kill the girl. I'm using my telekinesis to kill the girl. I would use my telekinesis to kill you. I would use my telekinesis to kill you. I would use my telekinesis to kill you.
Witches. It's Carrie. It's Carrie, witches.
Hello, witches. Much as you surmised, you are in fact down with me, Anarchy. This is another episode of Maidens and Magick, and yes, I am doing Carrie. Quick word, I was trying to get this out Wednesday, but at the very last minute, in typical Anarchy fashion, I decided to enter a writing contest. So I've been awake until about 3 a.m. for the past 2 nights working on that. Here's something I didn't really realize. So we are, of course, going to be talking about Sissy Spacek. Why is that so hard for me to say? Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie from the 1976 version with the original version of the Carrie film, of course, based on Stephen King's 1974 novel of the same name, which really began a whole Carrie franchise. In fact, somehow I didn't realize that there was a 2013 adaptation of it. Interestingly, featuring Julianne Moore, who I just fucking love, and also Judy Greer, who I have the biggest, weirdest, hottest crush on of all time. It has a lot to do with Arrested Development and a little bit to do with Archer, I'm not gonna lie. And honestly, who is this chick's name? Oh, this chick, Chloe. I don't know if you've seen her in anything, but I have got my eyes on this young actor. She is pretty brilliant. I haven't seen her in anything that's like blown my mind, but everything I do see her in, she's just really good. So I guess in this Carrie adaptation, it actually goes back to her whole history, which we really don't get to see in the 76 version of it, but this one starts with her as a child and, or actually it starts with her being born apparently, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna see this. I really wanna watch this. Actually, I haven't seen it yet, clearly. I just found out about it, but I'm gonna make this happen soon. But back to the version here that we are looking at. We're gonna be looking at this one here, featuring also, I just want to say, who else is in here? John Travolta, by the way, who, as I've said before, and I will say again, he's like my male alter ego, you know, rockin' and rollin'. That's from Grease. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to try to razzle dazzle you a little bit with this. This is my last episode with the good computer and the good editing software, I don't know, that I've so expertly utilized. I'm going to have to relearn a whole new editing program, and that's going to be fun. Plus my other computer doesn't have all the bells and whistles that this one does, so production value is about to get even wonkier, but we'll fix it who knows, maybe I'll find some amazing editing information or program that changes everything. I want to say I couldn't find it and I was pretty bummed about it, but I thought I had it here somewhere. I don't really. Okay, so the movie starts with this shower scene that I could not find any really good pictures of. This shower scene, y'all, is so weirdly seductive. I couldn't even believe it. I was a little bit shook at, I mean, it's very artistic, and the water's just running down her lithe body, and the contours, and it's all very, very pretty. And there's a long close up where it's running down her thighs, and it doesn't really totally look like water, y'all. It looks a little milky white, and it does lead to, at any rate, as erotic as it might be, sensually, it does lead us to one of the most famous, quoted, notable scenes in the entire movie. This one, y'all. And I just want to pause here. This fucking bitch right here. Oh my God. So slap happy. She slaps no less than 2 students. She gets in the shower and slaps the fuck out of Carrie, and then slaps this other little white bitch. And this other white bitch, she gets slapped a couple times. I'm going to tell you something about this movie. There is a lot of casual violence against women in this movie. Apropos to it being the 70s, I guess. I mean, dang, 70s. I don't know what's with y'all, but there was a lot of they were pretty fucking slap happy back then, I'm going to say. And then we get, yes, the infamous plug it up, throwing pads at her. There's, again, she's this bitch, she throwing hands. She shaking the student. She don't care. Shaking baby, shake the baby. She don't care. It's your period. Okay, so actually the coach does turn out to be pretty sympathetic, and the other chicky wicky back here, hold on, now my controls won't let me go back there because of course my computer wants to be a giant anus now that I've talked you up. This girl here is the other one who she manhandles and smacks, but the other chick with the brown curly hair actually ends up being an ally to Carrie. If you'd forgotten the plot somehow, basically, let's go through really quickly. Basically, Carrie has telekinesis or psychokinesis, as it was once known, and not that one, this one. And her mom, who's a religious zealot, played by the incomparable, said it again, Piper Laurie, believes that she's possessed by a demon. Girls tease her. Clearly, life is hard for poor Carrie. And then the girl with the curly brown hair decides to take some pity on her and asks her hunky hot boyfriend, who Carrie happens to have a crush on, to take her to the prom. Carrie, of course, and rightfully so, is suspicious of this and thinks that it's a trick. It's not on their part, but evil is still afoot. Turn to the blonde bitch who gets slapped, whoo, and Mr. John Travolta, who plays a wife beater pretty convincingly. Don't know what else to say about that. So these other guys, John Travolta and his blonde-ish girlfriend, who's getting slapped by the gym teacher, slapped by her boyfriend. She's just a punching bag at this point. They decide that they're going to play a prank on Carrie because they know she's going to the prom. They're like, ha, our golden opportunity, right? So in one of the more brutal scenes, and I had fucking totally forgotten about this, they decide that they're going to put they're going to dump pig's blood on. Of course, that's where we get this whole image. Just the whole, yeah, they're all going to laugh at you and the pig's blood, and they do, and they laugh. Hilarious, right? Except to get this pig's blood, rather than simply going to a butcher or something sensible like that, they actually go, I didn't get the scene here, y'all, because it's brutal. They actually sneak in to a farm or a slaughterhouse or something with a huge metal 10-pound, I don't know how, sledgehammer. They go in and fucking brutally murder this pig to get the blood, y'all. It is, of course, they don't show it really, but it's pretty intense. Now, before she gets to the prom, another one of the most infamous scenes in the movie. This is with Carrie's here getting ready for the prom, and we're going to see this is the intro of Piper Laurie, her religious mother, who comes in, and this happens.
What Tommy gave me, Mama? Aren't they beautiful?
I can see your dirty pillows. Everyone will.
Breasts, Mama. They're called breasts. And every woman has them.
They're called breast, Mama, breasts. Now, in the mother's defense, this dress, prom dress that Carrie has constructed herself, bravo to that, is really little more than a slip. It is, I don't know how I would feel about my daughter going out in this. So I'll be thankful I don't have a daughter. And of course, despite the girl with the curly blonde hair who's dating the guy with the curly blonde hair who takes her to the prom, despite the fact that she tries to intercede and stop the prank, it happens. Hilarious. Too much hilarity. Said no one. Ever. Yes, the big blood dumps down on her, and then we get a whole lot of this. And hey, at first, sure, this seems fun. This seems great. This seems like a nice, adequate revenge. Fire hose goes around, everybody gets wet, but then it's all fire and brimstone and death and buses and cars flipping and people perishing horribly. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, so that's like the gist of the movie. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. Why haven't you seen Carrie? I don't know what's wrong with you. Of course, we couldn't talk about Carrie without talking about Piper Laurie. That's a very young picture of Piper Laurie, and I'm just going to be honest. Most of you probably know her like I do as Catherine Martell. Yes, she's the one who's evil to poor innocent Josie. Who is she really so innocent? We don't know. Save that for later. She's horrible to Pete, her husband, conspiring with Benjamin Horne to burn down the mill. You know the whole thing. She is really great in this role, honestly. Until this happens, yeah, we're not going to talk too much about this. But let's talk about this instead. Oh no, let's talk about this. I know what I'm doing. So I just want to point out, and I don't usually point out how old people are because I don't give a fuck because it's ageist and stupid as fuck. But she was born in 1932, y'all. So if you look at this, I'm going to skip ahead to her IMDb or filmography here. Her first film was in 1950, which is really, I mean, different, simpler times. I don't know. But I just want to point out by the time we got to Carrie in 76, she was already a seasoned actress. So, yeah, there's that. And she's also done, when you look at her television appearances, especially, she's done a whole lot of really cool appearances and cameos. She's been in everything from The Twilight Zone to Frasier to Law and Order Special Victims Unit, which is a big, this is actually a really good episode. I know it. Piper Laurie had a long, she's still alive. So how old is she now? Okay. She's older. It doesn't really matter, but you see me trying to do math in my head, and then it's right there. 89. Hee hee. Learn to read, and a hee hee. I don't know where the Michael Jackson came from there. I'm feeling a little kooky. Probably sleep deprived. End of the semester, nearing the home stretch. Let's keep going. She was born in Detroit, and I'm not going to do a whole really super long thing about Piper Laurie, but suffice to say that she has had an amazing career. She's a very talented actress, I believe. And back in the day, let's see. Here's the thing about any old actress y'all ought to know. She back then you really legit had to be a triple threat. Like, you had to be able to sing and dance and do the whole thing. So give it up for that Hollywood glamour, baby, the divas of the silver screen. I love it. I definitely put her in that category. And then momentarily here, let me get on with it. We're going to talk about Sissy Spacek. Sissy. Yeah, we're going to talk about Sissy, who I find to be one of the most interesting looking people I've ever seen. More on that in one moment. Now going into Miss Sissy Spacek, who was born Mary Elizabeth. I always wonder about nicknames like this. It's very curious to me. I don't know where you get Sissy from out of Mary Elizabeth, but strangely it suits her. Now, not surprisingly, she was born and raised in Texas. So when you hear that accent, y'all, it's real. And you can't always hear it very well. She can hide it, but it seems to come out quite a bit. She actually, let's see, she aspired to a career as a recording artist, actually, which is interesting later because coal miner's daughter, of course. But when she was 18, she did record a single, John, You Went Too Far This Time, which I have not heard. But wow, is that an interesting title? Telling, isn't it? What I think is really interesting about her is I actually have not seen this. If this is in print anywhere, I haven't found it, and I haven't made an exhaustive search by any stretch of the imagination. Still, she did begin her professional acting career in the early 70s, 71 to be precise, in Andy Warhol's Women in Revolt, which, by the way, if you are looking for the cover, it is this. So there you go. That's a pretty awesome badge of honor in my book. She really did. Carrie was one of her earliest films, and she did receive her first nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress with that one. And then went on to do Coal Miner's Daughter about Loretta Lynn, of course, which is actually a really good movie. And I like this one mostly because Crimes of the Heart, it's definitely an 80s movie, and it is definitely a Black comedy drama, but it also stars Jessica Lange. And if you guys have been watching any part of Maidens and Magick, I love me some Jessica Lange. I am looking for a way to fit her in to an episode somehow, sometime soon. She has been in a lot of things. She has also, as you can imagine, a very long career, or decorated. Let's say long makes the focus seem old, but anyway, on her age. And I'm focusing on her talent. I'm focusing on the talent and the magic of these women, not how many years they've revolved around the sun. So solar returns are awesome, but not the, I don't know, not the mark of any kind of success necessarily. And I realize now that my necklace is a jangling. Hold on one moment. I am going to stop that. Sorry about that. I've actually heard that in a lot of episodes. It's super annoying and nobody's ever told me. Anyway, so she was an interesting, you don't always get these little tidbits, but it does say that, I'm going to read this part right here. In 1967, she was greatly affected by the death of her close 18-year-old brother, Robbie, from leukemia. It was the defining event of her entire life, she said. So You know, it's really interesting when you have a personal tragedy like that you can pull from. She said it made her more fearless in her acting career. It made me brave. I think it made me brave. Once you experience something like that, you've experienced the ultimate tragedy. And if you can continue, nothing else frightens you. That's what I learned about being rocket fuel. I was fearless in a way. Oh, that's what I meant about it being rocket fuel. I was fearless in a way. Maybe it gave more depth to my work because I had already experienced something profound and life-changing, which I think is an amazing quote. And I love her even more for it. So she actually did hang out. She was represented by Ford models. So when I look at Sissy, she is so, and let's just take a look here. She's got one of those faces that I look at, and sometimes I think she's just so beautiful. And other times I think, wow, is she beautiful looking, or is she, I mean, she's incredibly unique. Sometimes I think she looks a little bit strange. And then, you know, you've got to be able to buy into she is a ginger. She's got freckles, you know, which were, you know, probably hidden most of the time by makeup. But I find her look so incredibly unique, and she's holding up all okay. I mean, you know what? She's looking pretty damn good. So hurrah to you. Miss Spacek. I'm trying to say your name correctly. But you know, she was represented by Ford models. She was an extra at Andy Warhol's factory. So there was definitely a much different kind of Sissy there, a long way from a coal miner's daughter, I'm guessing, because we all know what went on at the factory. And then, anyway, Rip Torn, if you know who that is her cousin. I'm not exactly sure who he is either, but I've heard that name a lot. So what did I want to say about her? Something about 1992. I wanted to look about, I know the thing about Carrie was when she auditioned for, here's what I wanted to read. Okay, so I'm down here. She had to work hard to persuade DePalma to hire her for the role after rubbing Vaseline in her hair and donning an old sailor dress her mother made for her as a child. Spacek turned up at the audition with the odds against her, but won the part. I don't know why the Vaseline in the hair, I guess to look dirty and crazy or unkempt. I'm not sure. She has been married for the same to the same guy, Jack Fisk, whoever that is, since 1974. If you can even believe that. I can't imagine being with, but nope, I'm not going to talk about how strange mahogany, I almost said monogamy is. Anyway, she's been in a lot of films, and I'm going to go ahead and give a plug for this one. This movie, Hot Rod, if you are at all a fan of Andy Samberg, it is so silly, but so ridiculously funny. Just as a completely here's something completely different that she did. Anyway, there's all that. Sissy Spacek, we're into you. You and Piper Laurie, really two fierce maidens, very, very now crones, and embrace that cronehead. Both of these women make cronehood so beautiful. So don't forget when I'm talking about maidens, I am talking about the full spectrum here, people. Get off my case about it. Which is, I just realized a glaring oversight. It is with much chagrin that I inform you. I just looked at the information in front of me and realized that Sissy Spacek is in The Straight Story by David Lynch. So it would be, I would be embarrassed to not admit that at some point. Although, to be fair, that is the only David Lynch movie that I've never seen. I suppose everybody has one. Don't let it be Inland Empire. Now I want to talk to you about telekinesis. Telekinesis. I'm going to talk to you about telekinesis, psychokinesis. I'm going to talk to you about Psychokinesis, telekinesis. Let me stop. All right, witches, let's get to it. I'm trying to be a little bit more efficient, trying to get these out a little bit more, just more succinct, if you will. Here we go. Talking about telekinesis or psychokinesis. I love this. The Piper Laurie with like erratically chopping the vegetables for some reason is so fucking menacing. I don't even know why. All right. So jumping to the Wikipedia kind of overview of psychokinesis, it's generally accepted as a psychic ability that allows a person to influence a physical system without physical interaction. Now, thusly, well, not thusly, because the early experiments with psychokinesis, historically, they've been criticized for lack of a proper control and repeatability, and there's no proven hard evidence. So it's generally regarded as a pseudoscience. I'm going to bring this point up again in just a second because a scientist down yonder, when I scroll down on the page, actually brought up a good point. But now keep in mind here, we're talking about a very specific kind of psychokinesis here. We're talking about that in the movies, how it's depicted. It's always them flipping automobiles and throwing knives and objects and just starting fires and fire starter, Drew Barrymore. That would actually be pyrokinesis, I believe. However, not to split hairs. Oh my God. But going with this more like general kind of like, I can move things with my mind or bend a spoon is the most common kind of like example. And, there is video footage existent of people doing just that, whether or not it's faked or the spoon is a dummy or like a magician's spoon, if you will, a magician's spoon, that old thing. ESP in general is kind of poo-pooed upon and like it's not actually the most widely accepted. It is regarded as pseudoscience. Now, what is all this pseudoscience, or what do these parlor tricks, if you will, have to do with magic? I'm getting to that too, dear witches. Hold your tight little britches. It's going to be worth it, I promise. Let me see right here. What I wanted to get to first was really, okay. So there has been some research done. Of course, the government has researched that shit, because if psychokinesis is something that is can be utilized, it can be utilized for warfare. So we're all up in that biz. But I will say the physics of it, it does kind of defy this moving or bending of objects or starting of fires, if you will, does really defy a lot of physics, well-established laws of physics, which quantum physics, string theory, maybe things aren't what we think they are anyway, but things like the inverse square law, I don't really know about that, but I do know about the second law of thermodynamics and the conservation of momentum, and it does definitely... it takes a lot here to get, it would have to break the second law of physics. It would have to also, the energy would have to overcome the electromagnetic forces or the field itself. And that's a huge thing, that's, it's, affecting things on an atomic or subatomic level. So that's where things get a little bit complicated. But this guy down here, so this is, and not saying it's impossible, that any of this is impossible, just that there are a few hurdles there to get there, to get to the fire throwing part. The fire throwing portion of psychokinesis, as it were. All right. And then getting to, of course, it's something also that has been faked a lot. There have been many shysters over the centuries, probably not, maybe, possibly. I think the whole, that was like in the 1800s, really, with the mentalist, I guess. So maybe, yes, centuries indeed. Look at me knowing things. This one guy down here, though, is what I'm getting to, is he brought up the point, and I'm not seeing it right now, but that like if this kind of psychokinesis could be measured. They could tip a scale or turn a thermometer so that something quantifiable and measurable and cold hard numbers, it would yield that. But that has not been the case. So there's all that. It's debatable, but let's broaden our minds just a little bit. Let's talk about this. So this person wrote a page. I don't know who the person is. The person whose name I don't know at this time, but maybe we'll find Brian. I almost thought that was Brian Adams, and I was going to be like, dude, he's so versatile. Brian Abrams. Okay. It's called The Carrie Phenomenon, A Brief History of Telekinesis. It is actually pretty interesting. It does start with like the very first instance of telekinesis, probably like in literature anyway, would be in the Mahabharata, where Shakuni, who I think wasn't he part God? Or was he riding with Krishna also? Not sure about that. But yes, he's said to be able to move things with his mind. And there are tons of examples of this, but going all the way back to Hinduism, that's pretty righteous because that's way back, all the way back, old school to 400 BC, or BCE, before Common Era, as opposed to BC, which just means before Christ. And thankfully, we're eschewing that in the scientific community. At any rate, Jesus. Let's talk about Jesus, though. While we are talking about Christ, or well, it was mentioned anyway. That was nice, kind of a segue. Okay, so what was Jesus doing in the Bible if not using telekinesis to turn water into wine, heal the sick, and change a little bit of food into a lot? Now, these are interesting, more broadened examples of psychokinesis. If we're not just talking about flipping cards, but we're talking about actually changing the molecular structure of water into wine, which is kind of, I would have thought of it as transmutation, or if we were physically acting upon it, it would be alchemy, but to do that with your mind, I guess would be psychokinesis. Healing the sick. Now, if we are is it getting into the realm of witchy now? Do you see how this could be magic? If we're talking about healing the sick, we're definitely talking about magic. And wouldn't changing a little bit of food into a lot of food be a really amazing witchiness to possess? But he also brought Lazarus back from the dead, y'all. Just saying, now that falls more into necromancy, also witchy, also magic. So I think in a sense, this telekinesis or psychokinesis more than perhaps other kinds of ESP. I don't know. Well, we'll explore that topic later, perhaps. But it does. I can see the witchiness and the magic, like tangentially. I can see the connection, the subgenres, or it being a subgenre. Interestingly, also things that it goes on. It lists all the like Arthurian magic, Gandalf, Merlin, all of these different things. Now, of course, when mentalists were a big thing, and in the early 1800s or 19th century rather, same difference, by the way, just in case you're keeping score on that one. These fake seances were a thing. They were a sham. It was a show. It was a parlor trick. It was entertainment. They were very popular among the elite. I think people even knew that they were staged, but that's entertainment, back in the day. There has been scientific verification of it, just not to the extent that would be acceptable by the larger body of the scientific community. But some interesting things here that I've seen, that I read about just moments ago. No, actually like a week ago, I researched all this, but then got busy, stuff happened. Anyway, the gist of it is that the subjects, by and large, throughout a series of different kinds of testing, were able, it was a small percentage, but were able to influence statistical outcomes. why it was limited to statistical outcomes, and like the other physicist or engineer in the other article on the Wikipedia page, that like he pointed out, why not something quantifiable, like move the meter, tip the scale, something like that. Throw of the dice. In this case, it was it was a throw of the dice, and they were able to affect the dice with their mind. To an extent, again, the odds were never really overwhelming. It says here he's tested more. This guy Ryan tested more than 600. This is in 1941, by the way, 650,000 experimental dice throws, which. Oh, he had tested more. Okay, with the results suggesting that psychokinesis was indeed possible. So, and then, the pair lab, whatever, and this, here we get to the Army, the Army was coming in at some point. They also have done a lot of testing, and I don't want to go on a really long thing about it, but there have been scientifical like papers and reports that I guess would be the Open Information Act. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I guess you'd be able to access somewhere had you the desire to figure that out. Anyway, they tested they used a random events, and again we have these statistical outcomes that they're able to influence the subjects rather. But it's a random events generator, REG, and it tested coin tossing, basically. Essentially it was a coin tossing machine. And the findings of this experiment suggested a small difference between those REG trials that involved a human and those that did not. Small, but statistically significant. Not a lot of hard data there, or data, if you will. So I don't know, but the Army has been all up in this bitch. So you never really know how much of it could be downplayed and or not. And could we move stuff with the mind? Like, is that even a thing? Like, are we talking about, the micro PK and macro PK, which this is the only time I've ever heard these, but they're basically talking about different effects, whether they're observable with the human eye or not. But this Nobel Prize, he wasn't a winner, but a laureate. He said that it might be telekinesis or psychokinesis actually might be explained using quantum physics. Now, here's the thing. Now that we can prove that one atom can be in the same or two different places at the same fucking time, now that we have atom splitters and the CERN, tunnel and all these different things, and we've all of the theories that currently exist about string theory in general, I'm a little more inclined to say maybe the laws of thermodynamics aren't as unassailable as we previously thought them to be. He did write a whole paper about it. He said that earlier researchers were correct in the conscious and creative mind's potential to affect statistical outcomes. So they're still talking about that. I would like to see, this is 1991, where, who knows how much. I could not find anything more current. Well, okay, I'm not going to lie. I did not dig that deeply for more current research. But anyway, I think it's an interesting little thread to tie it in with string theory and interdimensional realities and possibilities and wormholes and who knows what else, black holes even. If all of that bends and shapes reality and allows the folding in of the time-space fabric in a way that could even create another singularity, fuck all. I don't know I don't know what else is possible, and neither do you, but neither does anyone really. But I love that there are people out there that are exploring this. So I'm probably going to wrap up psychokinesis there. It's a nice, there are lots of critics of it, but I say let's embrace the possibility of who knows what the mind is. All right, witches, you have once again been down with me, Anarchy, on Maidens and Magick. That was the movie Carrie. We talked about psycho or telekinesis, and maybe
expanded our minds just a little bit. I hope so. I just want to tell you, as we wrap up Pride Month, happy Pride. I hope it was good for everybody. I hope everybody had a good and safe time reintegrating back into society. It's been a little bit tricky. Wishing you all the best and happy Pride. And oh, what was it? Oh, don't forget. That's right. Stay with